Abortion is a right, so should be motherhood. Motherhood is a first principle, a universal necessity. The right to motherhood, fundamental to every species, matters more than the fundamental right to procreate, which is recognized by the Supreme Court as one of the basic human rights, or the rights to bodily autonomy and privacy, which now protect abortion rights. The right to motherhood is neither well defined nor well defended in our society. I think that's due to the systemic erasure of mother's socioeconomic value. Our society needs a right to motherhood distinct from the right to procreate, which is claimed alike by people who conceive, let's call them procreators, and people who do not, let's call them non-procreators. We have long superseded the conditions of patriarchy, but we have yet to redefine and reevaluate our reproductive roles and rights. At conception, a prospective mother ceases being an individual and becomes an individual plus, an expectant person. A mother is an entity who contains two or more living beings. The expectant mother is the only one of these interlinked beings who has consciousness and thus agency. Bodily autonomy, again foundational to our modern concept of free personhood, refers to the body of a self-aware person. A fetus, later an embryo, a newborn, has no conscious personhood, and our society guarantees rights only to sentient conscious beings. Our laws define life as the ability to engage in commerce, after all. Therefore, a mother speaks for all whom she contains, and it is her right to choose. Her fertilized egg, which becomes her embryo, which becomes her fetus, exists as an integral continuum of her. The newborn, crowning out of her canal in urgent search of her lactating breasts, is an extension of her. There can be no antithesis between the interests of a pregnant mother and of her born or unborn child or newborn child. Every expectant mother shares life with the emergent being in the natural laboratory of her. This invaluable bond between mother and child has sustained humans since before we even became Homo sapiens. An expectant mother's right to her reproductive body includes her right to her newborn, therefore. Our society no longer accepts the idea that the body of one person can be the property of another. Without that idea, which legitimized slavery of every kind, patriarchy could not exist and therefore it has collapsed. But the question of who owns the fertilized uterus goes on out of force of habit, fostering the instability that is now tearing apart our social fabric. Abortion rights are controversial only because they confirm what are indirectly codified maternal exclusive rights. The right to abortion and the right to life are not competing human rights. Our ongoing conflation of gender with reproductive function lumps people with fertilized eggs in the same category as people without, falsely perpetuating this imaginary binary of mother versus child, which perpetuates this patriarchal intellected separation between expectant mother and her body, which stems from patriarchy's colonization of the fertile uterus. So the New York Times says the principle is clear. Men and women should have equal control over their bodies. Well, since biological men don't have fertilizable bodies, the word equal misleads in this context. Gender equality may be socially relevant, but it is procreatively irrelevant. People have equal control of their bodies only when procreators can act as non-procreators and do not procreate. Non-procreation has thus been the default direction in which feminism has led potential procreators in the pursuit of social equality by advocating for birth control, abortion, equal pay, and other non-mothers' rights. Feminism defines reproductive freedom as freedom from reproductive work and reproductive choice as the choice not to undertake the unpaid work of mothering. confusing the right of women to decide what happens inside their own bodies with the right of expectant people to decide what happens in their reproductive bodies is what enables the linguistic gamemanship that was exhibited in the Supreme Court's overruling of Roe versus Wade. The Dobbs versus Jackson decision attests to the terror that the maternal procreative monopoly exercises over people who have no womb of their own. In his majority opinion, Justice Alito cited a decision from 1974 to determine that because not all women are mothers all the time, pregnancy discrimination is not sex discrimination according to the law. Alito then dismissed the Equal Protection Clause, arguing that abortion rights no longer affect gender equality. He said that, women have a lot of rights, and they are the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Law no longer covers abortion rights. Alito updated the court's earlier decisions because women are no longer without electoral and political power. That's a quote. And then he added that, again, quote, unmarried pregnant women now have access to pregnancy discrimination protections like guaranteed medical leave in many cases and medical costs that are covered by insurance or government assistance, end of quotes. The word unmarried here confirms that Alito upholds the right of woman as the idea of woman as the vessel for men and the right of abortion as a decision for men. In fact, in 1991, Alito had dissented in the Planned Parenthood versus Casey case, where the court decided that a potential father could not veto an abortion. In his dissent, Alito wrote that Pennsylvania had legitimate interest in furthering the husband's interest in his wife's uterus. So in all of these decisions, Alito decides for our devolution back to the Dark Ages by giving legal precedence to established practice. So what is our established practice? Let's break that down. Established practice gives mothers the right to choose a partner to share their children with. Paternity rights are traditionally the prospective mothers to give. As the genetic gatekeepers of society, mothers choose fathers with whom they enact marital trade settlements. By signing their marriage certificates, mothers enter into contractual licensing agreements with biological, intended, or adoptive fathers in the commercial exchange that takes place at the intersection of money and procreation. Patriarchy's offer to procreators has always been, I will trade you food and shelter for your baby. And prospective mothers have customarily sold their procreative rights to the highest marital bidder. The procreative payoff has been men's debt to patriarchy. Born a procreative penitent, men had to work to support wife and children. Men had to rent a womb for life, thereby purchasing rights to children of his own. This exchange began when our agrarian reorganization incentivized stability under a militarily enforced authority that would defend self-determined borders. Patriarchy then took value away from Mother Nature and gave it to Father Time, let's say, right? So we live in cultural time. Patriarchy confiscated the means of reproduction, the reproductive body of women, and forced fathers to buy the loot that they had colonized, thus erecting a metaphorical wall between mother and child in order to assign her procreative rights to paying fathers. And patriarchy denied mothers the right to personhood, of course, and to their independent ability to raise their children alone, framed the unbreakable mother-child bond. Afraid that civilization would collapse if men weren't forced into families, it entrapped men by charging them for the reproductive functions of women. Through the invention of money, wealth, and the monopolies of patrimony and patrilineage, this system of patriarchy kept men indebted to it for access to a genetic future of their own. Money sustained the patrilineage that sustained the patriarchy. So patriarchies declined in the industrial age with the rise of global economic migration and female employment, And meanwhile, science updated procreative realities and replaced religion as our source of like awe and authority. And for the first time, humans didn't need to have sex to procreate, and because science solved the mystery that motivated patriarchy, the knowledge of paternity. A cheap DNA test made lifelong monogamous domestication unnecessary. Men no longer had to buy exclusive womb rights to produce heirs. Commercial products like birth control, IVF, sperm banks, egg banks, whatever, surrogacy, fetal testing caused cascading social changes like serial marriages, same-sex marriages, gender reassignments, and we became post-patriarchy. In post-patriarchy, mothers choose how many children they want, if any. This thus determining our civilizational future. But mothers experience their occupation as a loss of status, or identity, or respect, or independence. When I read in the New York Times an editorial that criticized Justice Kavanaugh for voting to overturn rulings that have led to more equality, more dignity, and more freedom for millions of American women, right? So this dignity, equality is the freedom to not be a mother. We equate modern motherhood as the loss of dignity, freedom, equal rights, because being only a mother shames the modern woman, who can be so much more. And mothers still expect to be independent, to engage in the public sphere, to contribute to the betterment of society, and many find it impossible to pursue a career, earn a respectable income, earn a degree, and also become full-time mothers. Women who stay single and don't have kids are therefore getting richer. Bloomberg had a report on that foregoing marriage and parenthood has a much bigger payoff for American women than men, according to new research in 2022. So money is the means by which culture prioritizes what we do. The way that we are paid, the way that we get paid, determines our life choices. And it confirms that whosoever controls the means of reproduction and production and the generational wealth that's passed down through reproduction controls people, populations. It is time we build new systems of trust. Our trust is broken. We can begin by recompensing mothers, the equivalent of what they would earn at a paying version of their job. All mothers deserve the going salary that they're now paid to nurse, nurture, responsibly raise, lull to sleep other people's children, to mentor them in the numerous skills required in our digital society. Mothers deserve the salary that now paid to gestate and birth other people's children when they rent out their reproductive labor and their autonomy in the unregulated, privatized economy of procreative pay, which perpetuates the old unnatural hierarchy of non-procreators controlling procreators, because non-procreators make money. By monetizing the value of motherwork, we can stop devaluing motherhood. So mothering is work, and if our society wants children carried to term, it should pay mothers. A mother's right to raise her own children with dignity is as important as her right to abort. A pregnant person's right to choose should include her right to the substantive, formative value of mother work. Mother income will codify her right to parent, to provide food and shelter, time and attention, care and education to her children. For the first 6 years of a child's life, every qualifying mother should receive a salary, health benefits, mortgage, and eventual pension. She should also be guided by career counselors and academic advisors. She should receive basic education, and afterward, UMI mothers can find work from home or earn college degrees, and they can be paid like once through the GI Bill, perhaps out of the defense budget, redirecting core resources to, let's say, a Department of Mothers, led by a Secretary of Mothers, supported by the government and donors. A universal mother income can guarantee the right to motherhood. Mother income can standardize the intrinsic worth of mother work, can address extreme economic disparity outside the monopoly of patriarchy, It can remedy sub-replacement fertility levels, and it can allow mothers and fathers to redefine family dynamics and renegotiate family units beyond patriarchy's constrictions, freeing men to pursue fatherhood on its merits. Worldwide birth rate and cultural cohesion will continue to decline as long as the global standard of living rises and mothers remain unpaid. Reproductive rights without mothers' rights are extinction rights. Having children is an act of trust and hope, a sacrifice by the individual for the collective. Mothers produce people. Mothers' output is essential to civilization. We can defeat the patriarchy by having no children. We can defeat the patriarchy by having children outside the patriarchy. So what is a mother's work worth to us? How much? I'm Eurydice, and I support a universal mother income. Thank you.